I'm Leon Mann, sports consultant, filmmaker, entrepreneur, campaigner, and this is my journey.
I have to start off from the beginning, take us right back. Like, how did it start for you? Who is Leon Mann?
Oh geez, that's something I ask myself every time I go to sleep, because I kind of wear different hats.
Yeah.
So you listed a number, there's a few more, you know, that I could add to that. So I do lots of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I love the variety I have. I found a posh term for it, a business term, portfolio career is what I'm kind of calling it. So
Nice.
if anyone's watching and wants to kind of steal that, it's a good way of saying I do lots of stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I hope my work is all about impact.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hope it's about impact. Whether that's kind of in the community, whether that's helping athletes, whether that's helping businesses, whether that's helping the world to be a more equitable place.
Mm-hmm.
It's all kind of rooted in impact.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be about impact. If it's not making an impact, then I'm not really sure it's worth spending time and energy on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be careful what we spend our time and energy for in life, because we don't necessarily have a long time. So we have to think about what we're putting our energy and time into. So boy from Haringey, North London, Green Lanes, if anyone knows Green Lanes.
I'm from around the corner from Hornsey.
Are you really?
Well. Yeah,
oh, what
yeah.
school? What school?
I went Highgate Woods.
Oh, same school, Highgate
No way,
Wood.
you went to Highgate
yes,
Wood as well?
I left Highgate
Wow.
Wood in 1996. Were you born then?
That's the year I was born as well. Imagine that. Crazy, you would never have known.
You would have known, because I've got grey hair and you don't, my friend. But man, look, we didn't know this. This is a revelation.
Yeah.
But it's even more special speaking to you, because Highgate Wood's a very special school.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. Not a lot of people know that this week, this period, has seen Jude Bellingham go to Real Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
But the first English player to go to Real Madrid actually was Laurie Cunningham,
Yeah.
right? And Laurie Cunningham has something named after him at Highgate Wood School now.
Yeah.
But when I went there, they didn't have that.
Yeah.
And just up the road at Highgate School,
Yeah.
another very famous black footballer went to school up there.
I don't know this one.
Someone called John Barnes.
John Barnes?
John
to
Barnes, not Highgate Wood.
No, Highgate.
Highgate.
The private school Highgate.
The private school
I
Highgate.
didn't know that one. I
Yeah,
didn't
he
know.
reminds me all the time, because he thinks that we went to the same school, and I have to remind him I went to the comprehensive and he went to the private school.
Yeah.
There's something very special about Green Lanes, and you'll kind of connect to this
I'll
maybe,
be familiar
because
with it, I'm sure,
it
yeah.
kind of sits between a lot of different worlds.
Yes, most definitely.
So a lot of my good friends are from South Tottenham,
Yeah.
where when I was growing up there was significant kind of challenges in the community, etc. Good communities, but there were challenges there. Then you've got the other side of where I was living, Highgate, Crouch End, big old houses, lots of wealth, lots of people who had lots of opportunity, but equally problems.
Yeah.
I saw problems in those communities. So, you know, for me, growing up in the middle geographically, literally geographically in the middle of people who didn't have very much economically with people who had extreme wealth, I think really benefited me in understanding lots of different communities, lots of different ways of communicating, lots of different lives. And I think that contributed to me to be able to kind of move in between lots of different worlds and communicate. And I think that is the foundation of any success that I've had.
Wicked, wicked. So talk to me more about obviously navigating through like school and stuff and leading into, I'm sure you went to university and stuff.
I did.
Tell me about that journey you faced during that period.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, the household I'm from, at one point both my parents were teachers. My dad was a teacher for his entire kind of professional life.
Yeah.
My mum was between being a fashion designer. She was also a play worker on the Broadwater Farm estate.
Wow.
She did lots of different jobs, and I learnt so much from both of my parents. And mum she was born in Jamaica, came over here when she was very, very young, raised in Hornsey, and parts of South London. My dad, white working class guy from a place called Worcester, where there's not very much diversity, so it was a bit strange for me as a kid going up there, going from a very diverse place up there. But again, it showed me a different part of the world.
Yeah.
So again, that was a big part of my kind of like education about where I'm living, and the country I'm in, the world I'm in. And those things really kind of help to inform who I am today, and the decisions I've made in my life, and the person who I am. It's all down to my parents, really, in terms of what they gave me, continue to give me now, even though I'm an old man. You never lose what your parents give you.
Of course. Still listen to them, even in.
Yeah, I listen to them. Maybe they don't think I'm listening to them, but I think that's generally what being a younger person is, and I know that I don't quite fit that description right now. I'm cool with it though. I'm cool with it. But they gave me so much. My community gave me so much. I was brought up with, you know, Black community, Asian community, Greek Cypriot community, Turkish Cypriot community. Wow, like I just feel enriched by the people and the experiences that I had, and you know, it's been so special to my journey. Absolutely everything I have learned has been about the people that I've interacted with in my life. I
agree with you. I think being able to understand multicultural, different things is a major thing in helping you build yourself as a person. So I totally agree with you on that. Also, I want to split it a little bit and ask you about, when did you first fall in love with sport and find a keen interest in it as well? Yeah,
do you know what? In my household, my dad's a sports nut, right? So like, he'd be asleep on the sofa, he'd have sport on, and you'd go to turn it over and go, hey, what are you doing? So it was always sport in our house. So I couldn't get away with it. Like, same with like my kids at the moment, like sports on TV all the time. So I was like heavily into sport, loved it. And then my dad would encourage me, would support me. Lots of things that, you know, I took for granted at the time, but like getting a lift to go to training, whether that's to play football or whether it's to play cricket or whether it's to go run track. You know, my parents gave me so much support that I was able to do those things, enjoy them, and maximise the talent that I had. You know, everyone thinks they could have been a pro. You know, I might tell that story when I'm at a bar at 2 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that, you know, enjoying all the other people who didn't make it pro. But I love football, I love sport, I loved watching. My dad took me down to watch Spurs from young.
Spurs fan?
Yeah, I'm a Spurs, oh my gosh, there's two of us.
We're just in sync at the moment, honestly.
Same school, both Tottenham fans, or Tottenham sufferers, whichever way you want to frame it right now.
Definitely sufferers.
This is, we've got chemistry, man. We've got chemistry. We've got chemistry going on.
Love this.
But no, sport's everything to me. And you know, captain of the football team at school, captain of the cricket team, yeah, everything I could do, I would do. I was on it, and I felt like I squeezed my talent as much as I could at that particular time in my life.
So from the transition, and when did you kind of think about obviously taking your talents into media and stuff like that?
Do you know what? That for me wasn't a thing. Well, do you know what? I say it wasn't a thing. It was a thing, but it wasn't a thing that I wholeheartedly thought I could achieve. Because I was, you know, a young guy watching sport, and everyone I saw who was black, who was on the television, 400 professional games, had won gold medals in Olympics, and I didn't see any black writers really. I know like Rodney Hines and Darren Lewis, they came along when I was a little bit older on my kind of journey, but we had no diversity. So in terms of like seeing relatable figures, which I think is really important, there was no one really. You know, I was looking at Trevor McDonald, but he was reading the news, right? And I know he had a sporting background in terms of his interest, but he wasn't a sports journalist. So for me, that possibility did not feel achievable at that time because there were not role models. And it was only later on in my life when I kind of had, you know, a big moment, a big change in my life, that I felt I could and should go for those things. My sister knew somebody connected to the Kick Racism Out football campaign.
Okay, yeah.
And then I just went in there, pulled up a seat next to the director, who then went on to become my boss. I volunteered, and I was in the right place at the right time. A job came up that I wasn't qualified for. They said, we like you, go for the job, but we're not going to be able to pay you the full money if you're successful. Got the job, they paid me, you know, a lot less than what it was advertised for, but I got the job and I was in. And then I was the Europe and Media Relations Officer for Kick Racism Out football. I was living the dream, man. I've never been so happy.
Amazing.
Like, I can't tell you what it's like, and hopefully people watching this will know or have experienced, I hope, at some point in your life, where you just bounce out of bed every morning. And look, it don't last for a long time, trust me, but it doesn't matter what you're doing. but I was bouncing out of bed every single morning, couldn't wait to get to work, staying late, giving everything, and I was just enjoying work. And then I got to push on from there and go to the BBC. Went to the BBC in a very junior position at a time when I was like 27, 28, so relatively late to be joining the media industry for many people.
Yeah.
But I had a really good contact book because of Kick Racism Out Football.
Yeah.
Because I was there and a lot of players would talk to me and want to be helping the campaign. So I walked into the BBC with Rio Ferdinand's number, with all these kind of people who were kind of like looking out for people like them, I felt. Like Rio gave me some amazing opportunities, like hosting his book launch, going out to Nigeria with him so these got me, you know, my relationships with these people got me opportunities that other people couldn't get. And that elevated me, and that enabled me again to be the person who delivers. Suddenly I'm going around to players' houses. No one's ever done that. No one's gone to players' houses. It annoyed the clubs. Sorry, clubs. But we got some stuff done. And then some guy called Usain Bolt rocks up at the Olympics. I was like, wow, 2008 this was. Absolutely amazing. Smashed it. My girlfriend at the time, wife now, was working as a reporter out there. And I just got on a plane and I went out to Beijing. And I met the chef of the Jamaica national team. She invited me to a Puma party, and that's when I got to meet Bolt's entourage. Fast forward to 2012, and I've made a documentary on him that's gone on BBC One, BBC Two, BBC Three. The only documentary for sport that's gone on all three. So that was it. Then I was off. Then I was flying, and I had some really enjoyable years in the media. England reporter for ITV for a short time, did the Euros for ITV. I had an exceptional time in the sports media.
So Leon, obviously leading on from you directing the Usain Bolt documentaries and stuff, I want to talk more about your filmmaking. Yeah,
filmmaking for me was a real pleasure, but ask anyone who's made a film, it's a very emotional process, right?
I can imagine, yeah.
Because you're so attached to this thing, and you want it to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I would not rest, would not sleep, would be thinking about this film or this piece of content that I was making like 24/7. And I have a vision, and sometimes it's hard to execute the vision because people you're making with it are not on the same page, etc., etc. But I was very fortunate to make a Usain Bolt documentary with a brilliant guy called Stephen Lyle, very experienced TV filmmaker who's now a senior executive at BBC Sport.
Wow, amazing.
The Usain Bolt documentary that we made, like we're both of Jamaican heritage. So we wanted to tell the story of a Jamaica that wasn't about beaches and wasn't about the stuff that you would see in holiday programs, but the real Jamaica, the Jamaica we experienced. I was very lucky. My parents would take me to Jamaica every other year as a kid. So I would see Jamaica, like the real Jamaica as I would call it. I'd see the beaches, of course, but I'd see the beauty of the hills and the mountains. I would see real people, real life, not just tourism.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to tell this story about Usain Bolt, and we got Michael Johnson to be the presenter, the famous sprinter, American sprinter. Very serious guy, very different kind of character, certainly at that time, to Usain Bolt. And it just worked, man. Just the magic came together. We got Michael to do some scientific stuff in terms of how you sprint, but then we got into the family in terms of who he is. And then, of course, we got the man himself, who did a beautiful one-to-one interview. And I wasn't a very experienced filmmaker at the time. I've never really spoken about this before, but Stephen Lyle was making a film with, he just went, right, this is the big moment, over to you. Wow. So I was like, right, and I thought about it, etc. So I was directing this walk and talk, like what we're doing now. Yeah. And we had a certain amount of time, because Coach Mills, who's Usain Bolt's coach, doesn't mess about. If he says half an hour, it's 29 minutes. And we got this interview done, and the interview was pretty cool. The interview was pretty cool, and the film came together really well. And like I say, the only sports documentary I've seen that's been on BBC One, BBC Two, BBC Three, and I'm really proud of it. Made a follow-up, Can Anyone Beat Bolt? Because we had to find a different angle. So that took me all around the world to interview all of the potential challengers to Usain Bolt. And it was amazing, because one of them was Johan Blake, and he beat Usain Bolt before London 2012 in the Jamaica trials, and I
Yeah.
was there, and I was really torn because I liked Johan, I liked Usain, I got on well with both of them, and then I'm having to say, well done Johan, and I'm having to run after Usain. Bro, like, tell us what went wrong, and it's like not what you want, right?
Yeah.
So that's filmmaking. You've got to tell the story. Like, we want relationships with the athletes, but we've got to tell the truth in terms of what the story is, and sometimes that involves difficult moments. But in terms of that film, you know, both of those films did pretty well. The first one in particular did really well, and that just gave me a launch pad to get involved in more documentaries with ITV. I didn't make the films on those occasions. Other filmmakers, very talented filmmakers did, but with Jermaine Defoe, I did his life story, I did Andy Cole's life story, and it's just a privilege, man, to sit down with those guys and then to open up. Like, on both occasions, me and Andy, me and Jermaine, we spoke for like 3-4 hours about their life.
Oh, that's amazing.
They gave me access to the people who are their nearest and dearest in their lives. You know, that's a real privilege and something I don't take for granted.
Most definitely, I agree that you should look at it that way, because especially Andy Cole, for example, he's not really a person that deals with the media and is open with the media, do you know what I mean? So for him to allow you in like that and talk to that capacity as well, so
yeah,
it's a great thing.
Me and Andy talked about it, or Andrew as I call him.
Yeah.
There's a big thing about him, Andy.
Andy,
But the thing is, once you know him, he's calm, man. He's not really that bothered about it. He's just kind of like, what he is he's a man who wants respect.
Yeah.
And there's a strong case to say what he's achieved in football, he hasn't had the respect he deserves, right?
I totally agree.
And in terms of the relationship with the media that he had, it wasn't the greatest. And I think it's basically because I see him as a natural introvert. He's a chilled guy, man. Just a lovely, lovely guy. But he doesn't suffer fools. He doesn't suffer fools. So if there is in any way whatsoever a sense of him feeling that you're not paying respect, or you're not giving him, or you're not treating him well, and that's just common decency, then he ain't going to have you at all. He's not someone who suffers fools. And I think that can be misinterpreted by people in the media and the masses. But then I know this because I've done his life story, right? So I've had that opportunity, and that's what the sports media and filmmaking can do. It can give you access to some incredible stories that you have to respect and you have to tell in the best respectful way, I think. And that's the joy of filmmaking.
Amazing. Also, you've set up 2 different, obviously, organisations, one being Refresh and one being BComs. Tell us more about those, and for the masses that may not be aware of it.
Well, BCom stands for the Black Collective of Media and Sport.
Yeah.
Basically, when I went to the BBC, based at White City, it was quite ironic, White City, I was like getting off a very diverse tube going into the White City offices, and it just wasn't very diverse. I'm not saying people weren't nice, of course they were nice, but I'm from a very multicultural background, right? So I was kind of like feeling like I'm in London, I'm not in Worcester, I'm not in like some part of the north of England where there's not much diversity. Like, this doesn't make much sense to me. And because of my campaigning background with Kit Racism Out Football, I was just like, well, let me do something. And all I really did was call a meeting. So 10 of us got together at the Soho Hotel, and they were black sports journalists. And we just sort of said, what are we saying about our industry? And it's like, there's lack of diversity, kind of, some felt uncomfortable, not everyone. I felt uncomfortable, if I'm being completely honest. What are we going to do? So we decided to do something. We decided to just begin having meetings, supporting each other, speaking to industry leaders. And over the years, like that was 2008, 2009, like now 2023, we're established, we have partnerships with some of the biggest companies in the world. We're helping these young journalists who are exceptional, young content creators who are exceptional, like push on and do incredible things, whether that's in the mainstream sports media, the BBCs, the ITVs, the Sky Sports, etc., or it's them just like creating their own platforms and building on big platforms. Like our alumni, the people who've come through it, are doing just sensational things, and I'm so proud of them, and really pleased that I was a part of setting up BComs, along with a lot of other people like Drew Christie in particular. So yes, that's BComs. I'm really proud of what we've achieved there, and wow, we've got a lot more road to go ahead. This industry has got a long way to go with diversity, particularly behind the camera. I think in front of the camera, it's kind of like, let's find some former athletes who are going to excel in front of the camera, and that's happened well. But in terms of people who haven't played sport professionally, we've got a lot of work to do there. And behind the camera, like seriously, like there's masses of work to do. But we're talking about it, the media are saying they're going to do the right things. I believe in some of the media, I think the people need to change, leaders need to change for them to really kick on. But let's see what happens. I'm interested in working with the people who are serious, and Beacons is kind of helping on that journey.
Amazing. Can you tell us more about Refresh as well for the people that don't know?
Yeah, Refresh is a big accident. It's a big accident. Basically, I was doing all these different bits of work, from consultancy work to filmmaking to helping athletes, to production company work. And essentially, I just thought I need to house this in a company. So Refresh Sports was born. And we do all sorts of work. So we kind of help talent, whether that's a Yaya Toure, whether that's a JD Dyer, whether that's a Faduma Alo, whether that's a Zarnell Hughes. We've got a real range of exciting talent that we work with. We've got the production company, so whether that's making content for the England channels, whether that's working with Discovery, we're doing things there. And then there's the consultancy work, which is behind the scenes stuff that I don't really kind of share, but that's kind of advising leaders across the game, leaders across the media, and leaders across business in terms of communications, EDI and other areas. And yeah, we've done some cool stuff. And I guess the crown jewel for a lot of this work is the Football Blacklist. The Football Blacklist is an initiative to celebrate black excellence in football. Myself and Rodney Hines, sports editor of the Voice newspaper, we came together. I pitched a couple of ideas, he had some tweaks, and we kind of got to a place where we put this list together of the most influential black people in football. And that's not necessarily just the players, but the people we don't see behind the camera, the people who are in the boardrooms, the people who are out in the community, the people who are in the media. Oh my God, we just looked all over and we found this really impressive list. And the football industry loved it. They were like, this is a great initiative. The community loved it, most importantly. And then we've been able to build that list out, build events around it. And now we're in a place where the Premier League are the sponsor or supporter of a national event that we do, like 700 people coming together.
Yeah, which the Benchviews actually attended as well.
Benchviews was there, thank you for coming down. And then the FA support us with regional events that take place up and down the country, because we were getting, understandably some criticism to say, well, hang on, what's going on? Why are you just doing this only in London? So we went to Manchester, we went to Birmingham, we went to Nottingham, and we've done some exceptional events, and we're only growing it out. And I've got big ambitions, as has Rodney, to move this out internationally. We want to take this to the States. We want to take this to different parts of the world where the context exists of underrepresentation, and where we need to shine a light on black talent to encourage the next generation and educate the next generation about the roles, but really proactively, while kind of celebrating these amazing people.
So yeah, Leon, you've done a lot of notable things. You've, to name a few, obviously been an activist, filmmaker, broadcaster, interviewed the likes of Michael Jordan, David Beckham, Jose Mourinho. When you look back on reflection, do you look at it with great pride at the barriers you've broken down and stuff like that?
Yeah, do you know what? It's work. And I'm blessed to have been given opportunities to do the things that I've done. And, every next gig, every next opportunity, you kind of know you have to do well to get something else. You don't get many opportunities where it cannot go so well, and that's just life, right? Not everything is going to go well in life. You have to accept that. So you do feel a pressure, and I must admit, I have felt an additional pressure being a black guy. I've felt an additional pressure being someone who's younger, and I don't think people in the industry really recognise or understand that. I think they just kind of feel like, yep, you're in, you should be grateful, crack on. There were incredibly supportive people of me, but you know, it's hard, man. It's hard when you're coming from a place that other people aren't coming from, and you can feel isolated and you're under massive pressure. But do you know what? You don't have a choice. You're either going to do it and deliver, or you're going to not do it and you're never going to know. So I would always prefer to know and give it a go. And that means you kind of have to challenge this, what I would describe as called a fear of failure.
Yeah.
And I think there's a real fear of failure amongst young men, young black men. I've seen it, where it's kind of like, why would I even bother trying? Because I know I could do it well. Well, no, try and show us you can do it. Show us that it's possible. And the worst thing that could happen is it doesn't work out that well. But that's no disgrace, because I respect someone for trying more so than someone who's going to sit and be cynical and not even try. But I think we have to recognise that. We have to have those conversations to support the next generation, because otherwise there's the potential for them to just never know. And I think that'd be very sad, because we've got some very, very talented people across all of our communities.
So what was it like, obviously, having your talents be acknowledged by the Queen? Obviously, you've been awarded an MBE as well.
Yeah, man. Do you know what? That's a bit strange, because, look, the people who I knew who had received an MBE are like famous people that I've worked with through television and stuff. It's not people in my life. I've had lots of exceptionally hard-working, talented people in my family, my friends network, etc. But not kind of MBE kind of recognised people. And maybe they should have got MBEs, maybe they're just not in the right circles or not doing a high-profile role to get an MBE. The thing that did make it a little bit different is that my wife has an MBE.
Wow.
So she's got an MBE for services to sport as well. So she's started a campaign called Women in Football, which is a very kind of successful, well-recognised campaign. So I did have someone very, very close to me who had one. It was nice to get that recognition. And look, you know, also, let's take it on. There's an awkward kind of side of getting an MBE as well if you're coming from a community that hasn't been treated very well in this country, right? So when I got the letter, I was kind of like delighted at first, excited, and then there was a bit of a pause for reflection to say, well, am I going to take this thing? Because it's got a word in here called empire, and I'm uncomfortable with what that empire is about and what it represents.
What it stands for,
So should I be accepting this? And I must admit, I spoke to my family, spoke to friends, and do you know what? I just thought, yeah, I am going to accept this, and there's going to be a reason for it, because it's important to use those awards to help to further your own work and to help to further the cause. Of course, it's a celebration of what I've achieved and what has been done. But actually, you know, if you have an MBE, I believe some people will maybe reply to that letter that they wouldn't have replied to before. And if that letter is about getting more opportunities for young people from my community, then actually that's a really good reason to accept it. Also, when my grandparents came to this country, they were people, I say grandparents, my Jamaican grandparents and my Irish nan. When they came to this country, they would have loved to have had the opportunity for an MBE, and it was never really a possibility because of the world that they came into, the country that they came into. So I had the opportunity, it was offered, and that's as a result of the hard work that they put in for very little recognition, if any recognition at all. So I felt it was my duty to my grandparents as well to accept it. So yeah, and now it's a bit weird when I'm introduced on stage or anything, Leon Mann MBE, I'm like, ooh. Okay, it's like it's a bit strange, but I'm proud because I've definitely worked hard. I've had a lot of luck. A lot of people have supported me, and you need that. But I hope that I'm using the position I have in life right now in the best possible way. And I hope if I'm not, people are going to call me out on it. Maybe not publicly on Twitter and stuff like that. Maybe just give me a call and let me know what's what, because I want to do the best thing that I can do during the time I have on this earth.
Amazing, amazing. And I think I can speak for a lot of us, especially us young black creatives, trying to follow in your footsteps, that you've shown us the way and we appreciate you.
No, man, that's really kind to say. And like, when I look at what so many black creatives are doing, so many creatives are doing, from different backgrounds where their backgrounds would have previously meant that they couldn't push through in the mainstream spaces. It fills me with joy. And I love it when I look at the views, and I love it when I look at the engagement, and I love it when those big mainstream companies come to me and say we are failing, and I point at the success of people like yourselves and go, you're speaking to the wrong person, you need to go speak to these guys, you need to go and speak to all these people who are doing exceptional work, but you've locked your doors because you thought you knew what you were doing, you thought you could engage with young audiences, you thought you could deliver content in a way that's engaging. Well, actually, go and speak to the people that are delivering week in, week out and are making a difference. So, you know, props to all of the creators out there doing incredible work. Like, you inspire me, you inspire many people, and you are the future. Make no hesitation about that. The future, 100%.
Amazing, amazing. So looking to the future, have you got any other ventures coming up or any projects you're working on at the moment that you could speak on?
Yeah, no, do you know what? The future for me is looking at how we develop the football blacklist and the blacklist generally. So there's a rugby blacklist, which some exceptional people are doing.
Okay.
There's a tennis blacklist. Look out for a motorsport blacklist. I'm sure that's not too far away. I want to take the blacklist internationally. I want to take it into America. I'm really keen to just maximise the potential in the blacklist because I think there's some great impact that can be made, and we talked about impact earlier, how important that is. And then personally, you know, I want to work hard, but I also want to spend time with my family more. That's not always easy. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into achieving anything. So on a personal note, I kind of want to find a way to spend more time with my daughters and family to make sure that the time I have on this earth is spent in the best possible way. And that's not always possible due to just like trying to feed your family and trying to do things that will progress you as an individual, but also hopefully help the community as well. So yeah, there's a load of things that keep me up at night. I always think it's a good question to ask somebody, what's the thing that's keeping you up at night? Because then you kind of get to the point of something really interesting and something where you maybe can support someone or learn from someone. But there's lots of things that are keeping me up at night that are positive, and I just feel really blessed to have had the career that I've had to date and have the opportunities now to be able to hopefully continue to push forward and just be around good people, man.
Amazing, amazing. And to conclude, I want to ask you this, something I ask all the guests that come on the journey. If you could give your young self advice, looking back on your life now, what would you give your young self?
Undoubtedly, like, shake that fear of failure. Shake that fear of failure. Trust me, it's better to try and fail and learn from those failings than not to try at all. And I have seen people who are infinitely more talented than me, just not have the self-belief, the self-confidence, the opportunity, the support, and as a result of all those things and those different elements, they haven't tried, in my view, and they've ended up talking about what they could have been and should have been. You know that person you always meet who's like, I could have been playing for Arsenal, could have been playing for Tottenham. It's like, okay, well, what are the extra things that you did? And then that's where they struggle. And sometimes there's a story. In fact, most of the time there's a story that kind of like, that makes sense. But for me, you know, it's vital that we're trying. Whether that's in music, whether that's in business, whether that's in the media, try 100% put yourself out there and give yourself an opportunity to succeed. Because without that, you've accepted failure. And there's a lot of people out there that would like us to accept failure. They would like us to sit in our house doing nothing because that's how they control us.
Yes, most definitely.
And we can't allow that. So I'd tell my younger self, stop that fear of failure, man. Come on, get on with it. And I had to have a stroke for that to happen, right? So my life could have been very different if I hadn't had that very difficult moment in my life. But now my life is a positive one, not without challenges, like everyone else, but my life is a positive one, and I feel very blessed for that.
Thank you, Leon. Amazing story. Thank you very much for your time. This has been The Journey. I've been Joey. Thank you to Leon Mann again for coming down as usual. See you again soon.